Ethan first saw the app while he was half asleep, scrolling in the dark. His room was lit only by his phone screen, that cold blue rectangle hovering over unwashed clothes and half-finished energy drinks. It was past midnight, and he was doom-scrolling through short videos instead of studying for his exam. Between a prank video and a cooking clip, something different flashed for a second. He almost swiped past it. A black screen, white text, no music, just a single line. "Would you like to know when you'll die?" Ethan blinked. The ad stayed there, motionless, as if it was waiting for him and no one else. Below the question, there was a button. "Install the deadline." He snorted. "Nice try," he muttered. "Edgy marketing." But the silence of his room seemed heavier now. Even the hum of his PC sounded distant. Curiosity beat common sense. It always did. He tapped the ad. The store page opened, but it wasn't like normal apps. There was no rating, no number of downloads, no description. Just the title, "The Deadline, See the Truth." Publisher, unknown developer. The install button was there, bright, waiting. He hesitated long enough for his own reflection to appear in the black part of the screen. Tired eyes, messy hair. 21 years old and already burned out. "What's the worst that can happen?" he mumbled, half joking. He hit install. The progress bar filled instantly. No loading, no delay. As if the app had already been on his phone, just hidden. For a moment, the screen went completely black. Then a single message appeared. "Permissions granted automatically. Thank you, Ethan." He froze. He hadn't given it any permissions. "How do you even know my—" A notification popped up. "The deadline is ready." The icon appeared on his home screen, a white hourglass on a black background, the sand frozen mid-fall. Ethan told himself it was a prank. Maybe some weird viral campaign. Maybe one of his friends messing with him. Still, his thumb hovered over the icon for a long time before he tapped it. The app opened to a plain interface. No menu, no settings, no ads. Just one button in the center. "See your date." His chest tightened a little. "This is dumb," he said out loud, as if someone was listening. He pressed the button. The screen flickered. The hourglass spun like it was being shaken. Then the phone vibrated once, the way it did when a new email arrived. New text appeared. "Your death is scheduled for November 17th, 2025, 23:48. Cause, impact." Ethan stared. He checked the current date, November 15th, 2025. 2 days from now. He laughed, but it came out thin and forced. "Nice, real specific," he rolled his eyes. "Couldn't even pick something dramatic." Impact. What did that even mean? A car? A fall? A meteor? He almost closed the app right there. But as he reached for the back button, a small icon in the corner caught his eye. A tiny figure outline under the heading Other Records. He tapped it. A list unfolded. "Mom, November 16th, 2025, 09:12, cause failure. Jake, November 18th, 2025, 1:03, cause fire." His breath hitched. Mom, Jake, his best friend, failure, fire. He tried to tell himself it was pulling random names from his contacts, randomly guessing dates. Statistical fear generator, some AI prank. Still, Mom had a heart condition. She'd been hiding it, but he'd overheard a phone call last month. What if failure meant— "No," he muttered. "Stop it, it's fake." Almost on cue, his phone buzzed again. A new notification from the deadline. Tip: share the truth with a friend. The more you look, the clearer it becomes. He locked the screen, heartbeat louder in his ears than the distant traffic outside. This was just an app. A weird, creepy app. Someone's idea of a joke, right? He tossed the phone on his desk and crawled into bed. The glow of the screen still leaked through the darkness. that hourglass icon like a tiny staring eye. He tried to sleep. He didn't. The next morning, his mom called. "Morning, sweetie," she chirped, too bright for 8 a.m. "Could you come by tomorrow? I've got that doctor's appointment at 9. They want to do some tests." His brain supplied it automatically. Mom, November 16th, 2025, or 9:12, cause failure. His mouth went dry. "Ethan, you there?" she asked. "What would you do right there? Tell her? Hang up? Delete the app and pretend nothing's wrong?" He swallowed. "Yeah, I'm here," he said. "Yeah, I'll come." He ended the call and with shaking hands unlocked his phone. The deadline icon seemed just a little sharper now, a little more focused, as if it knew he'd just taken the first step into its schedule. And then the phone buzzed with a new notification. Ethan barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, the app's prediction replayed in his mind like a ticking clock. Mom, November 16th, 2025, 09:12, cause failure. By morning, he'd convinced himself it had to be a coincidence, a dumb game, a hacky little scare app feeding paranoia. But as he stepped outside, cold wind scraping across his skin, he couldn't shake the feeling that every minute mattered now. The bus ride to his mom's house felt strangely quiet. No kids shouting, no chatter. Just the creaking of the old vehicle and the rhythmic tapping of Ethan's foot. The app notification, countdown started, still sat untouched on his lock screen. He didn't dare open it. He reached his mom's place a little after noon. She was already dressed for tomorrow's appointment. Comfy sweater, neatly combed hair, purse by the door, as if she'd been waiting for him longer than she admitted. "There you are," she said, smiling. "You look pale. You're not sick, are you?" "No, just tired." That part wasn't a lie. She made lunch, tomato soup, his childhood comfort food, but he barely touched it. His eyes kept drifting to the digital clock on the microwave, counting backwards from something he didn't want to face. Eventually, she sat down across from him. "All right, spill. Something's wrong." Ethan hesitated. How was he supposed to say it? "Hey, Mom, a creepy app says you're going to die tomorrow at 9:12 a.m. Want dessert?" "Just feeling stressed," he managed. "School stuff." She reached across the table, squeezed his hand. "You've always carried too much weight on your shoulders." A beat of silence. "Tomorrow, 9:12 a.m. You know," she added gently, "I'm glad you're coming with me tomorrow. Those tests make me anxious." His stomach twisted. "Mom, what kind of tests are they?" "Oh, nothing dramatic. A stress test, some imaging. My doctor just wants to check something." She waved it off casually, too casually. Cause, failure. What if the app didn't mean her failing? What if it meant something failed around her? His pulse quickened. "Mom," he said slowly, "can you maybe postpone it? Just by a day?" She frowned. "Why would I do that? The specialist is booked for weeks." Ethan's throat felt tight. If he pushed harder, he'd sound insane. He didn't want to scare her. He didn't want to believe the app. But the fear gnawed at him, wormed into his thoughts. He stayed the whole afternoon, pretending to watch TV with her, while the hours slipped away like sand through fingers. As evening fell, she went to bed early. He lay awake on the couch, staring into the darkness, every little house noise making him flinch. At 3 a.m., his phone lit up on its own. A notification from the deadline. Reminder, Mom, 6 hours, 11 minutes remaining. His breath caught. He hadn't set any reminders. He hadn't touched the app in almost a full day. He picked up the phone with trembling hands. The countdown had replaced the home screen wallpaper. Big red numbers, 6 to 10, 47, 6 to 10, 46, 6 to 10, 45. Ticking down in real time. He whispered, "Stop, just stop." but the numbers kept falling. He forced himself not to look at them again. He just watched the darkness outside the living room window until morning finally bled into the world, gray, colorless, heavy. At 8:20 a.m., he and his mom got into her car. She joked about him being unusually quiet. He pretended to smile. The drive to the medical center felt like riding toward an execution he didn't know how to explain. At 8:56 a.m., they arrived. At 9:03 a.m., she checked in. At 9:09 a.m., a nurse opened the door and called her name. Ethan's heart pounded so violently he thought he might pass out. His mom touched his arm. "I'll be right back, sweetheart. Don't worry so much." She disappeared behind the door. At 9:11:54, the countdown on his phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out. 6, 5, 4. "No," Ethan whispered. He stood up, his legs nearly buckled. 3, 2. He rushed toward the door. 1. "Mom." 0. A sound erupted from behind the wall, a sharp metallic crack, followed by a heavy thud. The entire waiting room froze. A nurse screamed, and Ethan, cold all over, realized the app hadn't been wrong. Not even by a second. The world narrowed into a single, hollow sound, that thud echoing in Ethan's skull like a bell tolling. He pushed through the door before anyone could stop him. Inside the small examination room, 2 nurses hovered over his mother. Her body was crumpled on the floor, her head inches from the metal side of the diagnostic machine. A panel on the machine's arm, one that should have been locked in place, hung loosely, a thick bolt broken clean off. It must have swung down like a hammer, a machine failure, a mechanical impact. The app's prediction, cause, failure, made horrific sense now. "Mom, Mom." Ethan dropped beside her. His hands shook violently as he touched her shoulder. "Mom, please, Mom." She wasn't responding. One of the nurses dialed emergency codes into the phone with frantic fingers. Another tried CPR. People rushed in, orders were shouted. The room blurred into chaos, but Ethan barely heard anything. He stared at his mother's face, drained of color, her eyes only half closed. He knew, long before the paramedics arrived, that she wasn't coming back. His brain refused to accept it. It was too sudden, too brutal, too exact. 9:12 a.m., not a minute early, not a minute late. Hours later, after police statements, medical apologies, and hollow condolences, Ethan sat alone on a bench outside the medical center. Gray clouds hunched above him like a heavy lid pressing down on the world. His phone buzzed, he almost threw it. The screen lit up with another notification. "Record complete. Thank you for your observation." He swallowed bile. More text appeared beneath it. "Up next, you, 2 days remaining. Cause, impact." His hand tightened so hard around the phone that it creaked. "No," he whispered. "No, it won't happen. I won't let it." But then the app opened itself without him touching anything. The list was still there. "Mom, completed. Jake, November 18th, 2025, 01:03. Fire, you, November 17th, 2025, 23:48. Impact." Something new had been added at the bottom. Behavior. Note, interference detected. Escalation possible. His heart lurched. The app was watching him. That wasn't possible. But neither were the predictions. He shut the phone off. He planned to delete the app, reset the device, maybe even smash it. Anything to break away from its twisted schedule. But as he stood up, his phone vibrated again. Despite being powered off, he froze. Slowly, he lifted the phone to his face. The screen was on. A single word glowed against a black background. "Don't." He dropped it on the pavement, stumbling back as if it were a snake. The phone lay still. Then, a call came through. The screen flashed. "Unknown caller. Record active." Ethan's breath turned cold. He reached down with shaking fingers. "Stop," he whispered to himself. "Don't answer, don't." The call ended on its own. Then a text arrived. "We're not done." Ethan backed away another step. People walking past glanced at him. He probably looked insane, eyes wild, breathing shallow, staring at a glowing phone like it was alive. He didn't pick it up. He couldn't. He needed to go somewhere safe. Somewhere without machines, without falling equipment, without anything that could impact him. He walked home in a fog, every sound making him flinch. Rumbling trucks dropping construction materials. Even the distant thud of a basketball hitting pavement. Anything could be the impact. Anything. By the time he reached his apartment, the sun was setting, burning the sky orange. He grabbed the phone only by the edges, careful not to press anything. He set it on the table like a dangerous artifact. He told himself he wouldn't touch it again. He sat on the couch, he breathed, he tried to plan. Then, from the table, his phone lit up again. One new notification from the deadline. Jake, 30 hours remaining. Jake, his best friend. Ethan's stomach dropped as the rest of the notification slid onto the screen. Tip, share the truth so he may prepare. Ethan whispered, "I can't do this." But he already knew he would, because he'd just watched someone die exactly how the app said they would. And now his best friend's clock was ticking. The question wasn't whether Ethan would warn him. The question was, would it even matter? Ethan sat staring at the glowing notification until the edges of his vision blurred. Jake, 30 hours remaining, cause fire. Jake lived alone in a small apartment above a vape shop. The building wasn't old, but it was cluttered, full of chargers, devices, and the kind of cheap wiring landlords never bothered to replace. Fire wasn't impossible. It wasn't even unlikely. Ethan grabbed his jacket. He needed to talk to Jake, now. He left the apartment with one last look at his phone on the table, screen still lit as if the app refused to dim. The walk to Jake's place felt like trudging through fog, the world weirdly muted. Cars whooshed by, their engines too loud. People walked past him but didn't seem real. All he could think about was the countdown ticking in the background of his mind. 29 hours, 58 minutes, 12 seconds. He reached Jake's building and buzzed the intercom. No answer. He buzzed again. Finally, a groggy voice crackled through the speaker. "Dude, it's Sunday. What do you want?" "Jake, I need to talk to you. It's urgent." A long pause. Then the door clicked. Jake looked half asleep when he opened upstairs. Hair messy, hoodie stained with pizza sauce, gaming headset still around his neck. "You look like you haven't slept in a week," Jake said. "What's going on?" Ethan stepped inside. The apartment was dim, lit only by the glow of Jake's monitor array. The air smelled faintly of burnt dust, like electronics that hadn't cooled properly. Ethan's stomach tightened. "Jake." He swallowed. Something happened, something bad. The casual smirk on Jake's face faded. "Okay, sit down, talk." Ethan told him everything. The app, the prediction, his mom, the exact timing, the call, the messages, the new warning. Jake didn't laugh, he didn't make a joke. He didn't accuse Ethan of losing it. Instead, he leaned back, eyes wide but focused. "So, you're saying this thing isn't just creepy, it's real?" Ethan nodded slowly. "And mine says, fire." Ethan nodded again. "Tomorrow, at 1:03 in the morning." Jake exhaled a low whistle. Then he stood up suddenly and unplugged every device in reach, the PC tower, the monitor, even his phone charger. "Okay, well, no fire. Boom. Problem solved." Ethan wished it was that simple. "At my mom's clinic," Ethan said quietly, "they didn't cause the failure. It just happened. Out of nowhere." Jake froze mid-unplug. "You're telling me the universe is going to light me on fire no matter what I do?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted, "but we have to try." For the next hour, they went through the apartment together. They unplugged everything, checked smoke alarms, turned off the stove gas line, moved stacks of cardboard away from the radiator, even filled a bucket of water and left it in the hallway. Jake kept cracking nervous jokes, but his hands trembled the whole time. When they finished, they sat on the couch, both breathing heavily. "This is insane," Jake muttered, "like some cursed Final Destination app." Ethan didn't disagree. Then, Ethan's phone buzzed. He hadn't touched it since leaving the apartment. He hadn't brought it. Jake glanced toward Ethan's empty pockets. Was that? The phone buzzed again. Ethan's blood ran cold. No way. He slowly moved to the window overlooking the street. There, down on the sidewalk, lay his phone, screen glowing through the glass. He must have dropped it on the way in, but it was vibrating. Over and over. He rushed downstairs with Jake close behind him. The phone flashed a new message. "Correction. Fire does not require sparks." Then another, 29 hours remaining. As soon as Ethan picked it up, heat seared through the case. Not burning him, just unnaturally warm, like the phone had been sitting under a desert sun. Jake swallowed hard. "Okay, man, that's not normal." They went back inside, both shaken. Jake sat at the edge of the couch, staring at his hands. "What do we do now?" Ethan looked around the apartment, at the cheap wiring in the walls, the old air conditioning unit, the clumped extension cords under the bed. "Jake," he said, "I think you can't stay here tonight." Jake nodded immediately. Yeah, you're right." But as they started packing Jake's things, Ethan noticed something on his phone screen. Something new. A small symbol beside Jake's name, a flame. Small, growing pixel by pixel. "Jake, it's changing." Jake looked over Ethan's shoulder, swallowing hard. "So the fire's already starting." "No," Ethan whispered, "it's getting closer." Then the lights trembled. A faint burning smell drifted from the kitchen. Jake stiffened. "Do you smell that?" Ethan rushed toward the kitchen, heart pounding. The smell got stronger. He grabbed the cabinet door, yanked it open, and froze. Something inside was glowing. Something metallic, something heating up, on its own. Inside the cabinet, the air shimmered like a mirage. Ethan stared at the glowing metal object. A simple pan lid, lying flat on its side, heating as if placed on an invisible stove burner. The temperature rose fast enough for thin tendrils of smoke to curl upward. Jake's voice cracked. "Dude, that wasn't plugged into anything. It wasn't even near anything." Ethan slammed the cabinet shut. "We're leaving, now." Jake needed no convincing. They grabbed his backpack and bolted down the hallway, the apartment behind them already filling with the faint, acrid scent of burning metal. Down the stairs, out the building, onto the sidewalk where cold air scraped their lungs. Jake bent over, hands on his knees, panting. "It's starting early. Why? I have almost 30 hours. Ethan lifted his phone. The countdown beside Jake's name flickered. 28, 59, 47, 28, 59, 46. But now there was something else beneath it. "Early signs detected. Fire seeks path." Jake flinched. "What does that mean? Fire seeks path, like it's alive?" Ethan didn't respond, because the app did feel alive, and it didn't want interference. "We're not going back inside," Ethan said. "We'll stay somewhere safe. Somewhere without anything flammable." Jake straightened up. "Like where? The ocean?" Ethan's mind raced. Public spaces had sprinklers and alarms. Parks had nothing electrical. Parking lots were open and empty, but Impact still stalked Ethan, Fire stalked Jake. Nowhere was really safe. "We'll stay at my place," Ethan said finally. "I'll clear everything. We'll watch each other." Jake nodded, though his eyes still darted like prey expecting teeth. They walked for several blocks before catching a bus. Jake sat tense the whole ride, sniffing every few seconds like he expected smoke to appear out of thin air. "You think it can just start anywhere?" Jake murmured. Ethan glanced at his phone. "I don't know." When they reached Ethan's apartment, they did a full sweep, unplugged everything, turned off the breaker, filled pots and bowls with water, opened windows, moved anything remotely flammable into the bathtub. Jake paced in tight circles. "This is messed up, man. Completely messed up." Ethan took a long breath. "We'll get through tonight, then tomorrow we figure out what to do." Jake gave a shaky laugh. "You talk like we have choices." Night fell, turning the apartment dim except for the faint city glow outside. They sat in the living room, both too wired to relax. At 11:42 p.m., Ethan's phone buzzed. He didn't want to look. He forced himself. Another notification from the deadline. "You, 23 hours remaining. Impact will find you." A chill crawled up Ethan's spine. He silenced the phone. Jake didn't notice. He was staring at the corner of the room, eyes narrowing. "Do you smell that?" Ethan froze. It wasn't burning, it was something else. A faint scent like warm plastic, like insulation heating, the kind of smell that came before smoke. Ethan's heart hammered. "Where's it coming from?" Jake pointed toward the wall behind the couch. "Over there." Ethan moved closer. The wall was warm. He jerked his hand back. "No, no way. The breaker's off. There's no electricity." Jake's face turned pale. "Fire doesn't need wires, it just needs a path." The words echoed the message from the app. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. "We're leaving, now!" He grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him toward the door. But the moment they stepped into the hallway, a new sound vibrated through the walls. A soft popping. Then another. Then a low, horrible sizzle, like something cooking from the inside out. Jake whispered, "Ethan, something's happening in there." The lights in the hallway flickered. The air grew hotter. Then, boom! A muffled explosion inside Ethan's apartment. The door rattled. Smoke burst through the gaps around the frame. A swirling mass of orange light flickered underneath the door. The apartment, prepared, cleared, unplugged, stripped of every ignition source, was burning. Jake stumbled backward, terror written across his face. It wasn't anything we did. It wasn't anything in the room. It just happened. Someone down the hallway screamed for help. The fire alarm shrieked. Ethan's phone vibrated violently in his pocket. He pulled it out with shaking hands. On the screen, Jake's name updated. Jake, 27 hours remaining escalation, triggered. Beneath that, "Fire is self-correcting, do not run." Ethan stared at the message, horror turning his blood to ice. "Jake, it's following you." Jake backed away, tears forming. "Ethan, what do we do?" Before Ethan could answer, someone came running from the stairwell. A man with soot on his clothes. Panicked, coughing. He grabbed their shoulders. "You two. There's fire in the basement too. It's spreading up. Faster than anything I've seen. You need to get out." Jake's breath hitched. "Ethan, it's surrounding us." And for the first time since the app appeared, Ethan felt something worse than fear. Hopelessness. Because if the fire wasn't tied to a place, if it wasn't tied to a machine, if it wasn't tied to anything, then the only thing left was horrifyingly simple. It was tied to Jake. The hallway lights flickered again, once, twice, before going completely dark. For a heartbeat, everything was pitch black. Then, emergency lights snapped on, flooding the corridor with a dim red glow that made every face, every shadow, look blood-soaked. "Move," the soot-covered man yelled, waving them toward the stairwell. "The fire's coming up through the building." Jake staggered forward, but Ethan grabbed his arm. "Wait, if the fire is following you, then anywhere we go." Jake shook his head violently. "We can't stay here. Ethan, people are inside. We'll burn them alive." His voice cracked with desperation. A sickening truth twisted inside Ethan. If Jake stayed still, maybe the fire would stay contained. But if he ran, it would spread everywhere he went. A curse in motion. "Come on!" the stranger shouted again. Jake ripped free from Ethan's grip and sprinted toward the stairs. "Jake!" Ethan ran after him. The stairwell door swung open, and a wave of blistering heat blasted into the hallway. Flames roared below, climbing fast, too fast, like something alive and angry clawing its way upward. Jake stumbled back. No way, this can't be natural. Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He almost didn't look. He already knew, but he looked anyway. "Fire, located target, path adjusting." Ethan's throat went dry. "Jake, it's blocking every exit." Jake backed against the wall, trembling. "Then what do we do?" Smoke crawled up from the stairwell, writhing like dark fingers climbing the railing. People further down the hall were coughing, shouting, trying to find a way out. A woman pounded on a sealed emergency exit. A child cried. An old man slumped on the floor. Jake stared at them in horror. "Ethan, I'm going to get them killed." Ethan grabbed him by the shoulders. "Listen to me. We're going to fix this, but first, we need to think." Jake's eyes glistened, tears reflecting the red emergency lights. How do you fix something that's already decided? Something that hunts you? Before Ethan could answer, the fire alarm speakers crackled to life. But instead of the usual pre-recorded evacuation message, a monotone voice whispered through the static, "Return to your assigned time." Ethan froze. "That's not the fire alarm system," he whispered. Jake's face drained of all color. "The app, it's everywhere." The lights above them flickered, once, twice, then went out completely. For a moment, the only light was the orange flicker of the fire below. Then, Ethan's phone lit up with a stark white glow, illuminating both of their faces. "Jake, 27 hours remaining. Do not attempt to alter your outcome. Compliance required." Jake stared at the screen like it was a knife pressed to his throat. "Compliance," he whispered. "Or what?" As if answering, the floor beneath them trembled, an ominous, groaning vibration like something deep inside the building was cracking. The soot-covered man shouted, "The fire's in the vents! Move!" Flames burst from a vent at the end of the hall, a violent jet of heat that charred the ceiling in seconds. Screams erupted. Ethan dragged Jake toward the far end of the corridor, away from the burning stairwell, toward a window overlooking the street. They weren't high. Second floor. A jump could break a leg, but it wouldn't kill them. "Jake, we have to go, now!" Jake nodded, paralyzed with fear but moving. They reached the window. Ethan shoved it open. Cold air rushed in, but something else rushed in too. A sound, a roar, a whoosh. A pulse of heat exploded behind them as fire raced through the hallway, devouring everything in its path with supernatural speed. Jake froze. "Go!" Ethan screamed. Jake climbed onto the windowsill. The fire behind him flared, bright as a camera flash, and Jake jumped. His body hit the bushes below with a sickening crunch, but he rolled, groaned, and moved, alive. Ethan climbed up next, and the heat behind him surged. The flames exploded toward his back. He leapt, hit the bushes hard, and rolled onto the cold pavement. Jake crawled toward him, coughing. "Ethan, Ethan, are you okay?" But Ethan wasn't looking at the building. He was looking at his phone. It had fallen beside him, screen cracked but glowing. A new message bled across the shattered display. "Jake, time adjusted. Fire delayed until location reacquired you. Remaining time, 22 hours. Cause, impact. Imminent risk. High." Ethan stared, breath ragged. Jake whispered, "It's coming back, for me." And Ethan whispered back, "And something's coming for me, too." The fire was no longer the only threat. Now, the app was adjusting, learning, and impact, whatever that meant, was getting closer. Sirens wailed in the distance as people poured out of the burning apartment building, coughing, crying, stumbling. Orange flames streamed out of shattered windows, licking upward like massive, hungry tongues. Jake and Ethan crouched behind a parked car across the street, both shaking, both watching the inferno that had once been Ethan's home. Jake's voice trembled. "Ethan, I did that. I did all of that." Ethan grabbed Jake's arm. "No, the app did it, not you." Jake shook his head. "It followed me. Wherever I go, it comes. If I stay anywhere long enough, it'll burn it down." Ethan didn't argue. The evidence was all around them, glowing, roaring, consuming. Before he could say another word, Ethan's phone buzzed again. He hesitated, but he had to look. The screen displayed a new countdown. "You, 21 hours, 07 minutes remaining. Cause, impact, impact. Window beginning soon." Jake leaned over his shoulder. "Impact? What does that even mean?" Ethan swallowed hard. "A crash? A fall? Something hitting me? Anything." "Could be a car," Jake whispered. "Or something dropping from a window, or..." A metallic groan echoed overhead. Both men looked up. A fire truck ladder was swinging dangerously above them as firefighters tried to position it. A loose metal latch clanged, teetering on a hinge. Jake yanked Ethan back instinctively. "Move!" They stumbled away just as the latch snapped free and slammed onto the pavement where Ethan had been standing. A perfect near miss. Jake's face went white. "Dude, that could have crushed you." Ethan's phone buzzed instantly. "Near impact detected. Correcting course." Ethan's breathing hitched. "The app, it's trying to line up the hit." Jake grabbed his shoulders. "We can't stay here. We have to get somewhere controlled. Somewhere nothing can fall. No traffic, no loose equipment." Ethan thought fast. The old storm shelter under the park. It's empty, concrete walls, nothing above to fall. Jake nodded. Yes, that could work. Maybe it can't drop anything on you underground." They stumbled through the smoke-filled street and made their way toward the park several blocks away. When they arrived, the park was eerily empty. Fog drifted between the trees as if the night were exhaling slowly. Crickets had gone silent. Jake found the rusted metal hatch near the far edge of the field. They pried it open with effort. A stale breath of cold air rose from below. Ethan lowered himself down the ladder, Jake following close behind. The underground shelter was small, just one large concrete room with benches along the walls. No windows, no loose objects, nothing overhead but a thick slab of reinforced concrete. Jake exhaled shakily. Okay, this is good. Nothing can hit you down here." Ethan nodded, but his heartbeat wasn't slowing. Because he'd learned something about the app. It always found a path. "What about your fire?" Ethan asked. "We need to keep you away from anything flammable." Jake gave a grim half-laugh. "Good news is, there's nothing to burn down here." For a moment, the two sat in silence, the dim emergency bulb humming above them. Then, Ethan's phone buzzed again. He didn't want to look. He did anyway. Environment, scan, complete impact window, adjusted source, mobile. He froze as the meaning hit him like a punch. Jake, it says the impact source is mobile. Jake frowned. Mobile like cars? Or... Ethan's eyes drifted to the one thing in the shelter that could hit him. The heavy steel door they'd climbed through. It hung above them on creaking hinges, held open by a rusted metal rod they'd jammed in place. A rod that looked fragile. A rod that had bent when Jake forced it into position. A rod now vibrating slightly. Ethan's stomach dropped. Jake, the door. Jake looked up slowly. The heavy hatch, solid steel, easily weighing hundreds of pounds, was shuddering with little metallic tremors. One hinge let out a slow, painful squeal. Jake sprang to his feet. No, it can't. The rod bent further. Ethan scrambled backward. Jake grabbed the rod with both hands, trying to reinforce it. Go, get away from the center. The hatch creaked louder, metal grinding against metal. Jake pushed his whole weight against the failing rod. Ethan, move! Ethan backed into a corner, heart pounding wildly. The hinge above groaned. The hatch lurched downward. Jake screamed with effort. I'm not letting it kill you. Not like this. But Ethan's phone buzzed with merciless calm. Impact sequence initiated target alignment. Complete. Jake looked back at Ethan, eyes wide, terrified, determined. Run! The steel hatch snapped free. It dropped, fast, and Jake lunged under it. Ethan shouted, Jake, no! The heavy door slammed down, crash. Dust exploded upward. Silence. Then Ethan heard a sound he would never forget. Jake's muffled, broken gasp. He crawled toward the fallen hatch, throat tight, vision blurring. Jake, talk to me, Jake. Jake groaned beneath the slab, voice faint. Ethan, you're okay. Ethan's tears hit the concrete. Why? Jake tried to laugh but choked. Fire or impact, someone had to choose. Ethan's phone buzzed again. He looked at it with shaking, horrified hands. Jake, cause, impact, time of death, updated. Estimated 0021. Ethan stared at the screen as the truth shattered him. Jake had taken Ethan's impact. Jake had replaced him in the schedule, and the app had rewritten destiny without hesitation. Jake whispered weakly, Guess, it doesn't matter how, you try to cheat it. Ethan sobbed. I'm getting this off you, I'm getting help, just hold on. But Jake's hand slipped from Ethan's grasp. Another buzz. The final update. Record complete. Ethan stayed beside the steel hatch long after Jake's breathing stopped. He didn't scream, he didn't move, he didn't even cry anymore. He just sat in the dim shelter, knees pressed to his chest, staring at the cold concrete as the last echo of Jake's final breath faded into silence. Above him, the heavy hatch, now stained with dust and something darker, sat like the lid on a coffin. A tomb Jake had climbed under for him. Ethan's phone vibrated quietly where it had fallen. He didn't want to look. He didn't want to touch it. He didn't want the world to exist anymore. But the screen kept glowing through the darkness. Finally, with trembling fingers, he picked it up. The app now showed only 2 names. Jake, completed, rescheduled. His pulse froze. New text loaded slowly, as if being typed in real time. Your behavior has resulted in a reshuffling of events. Another line appeared beneath it. New time of death, undetermined. Ethan whispered, What does that mean? The app answered. Schedule unstable, cause unknown, path needs correction. He swallowed hard. Correction? No more corrections, I'm done. I'm not playing this game anymore. But the screen flickered, and more text appeared. You have interrupted a fixed event. Intervention level, unauthorized, system seeking new alignment. Ethan's hands trembled. Jake wasn't a fixed event. He wasn't supposed to. He wasn't. The app responded instantly. Jake was not scheduled for impact. A chill slid down Ethan's spine. So, you changed his cause of death because he got in the way? The app paused. Then, impact must occur. Ethan stood up shakily. No, you don't get to take anyone else. I won't let you. The shelter felt smaller now, the ceiling lower, the air thicker. The small emergency bulb overhead flickered, then again, then it died. Darkness swallowed everything. Ethan froze. His phone screen brightened, casting long shadows across the concrete. A new message loaded. Correction in progress. Do not run. Ethan stared at the glowing words. Then he did the opposite. He ran. He scrambled up the ladder, pushing the broken hatch aside with all the strength adrenaline could muster. Cold night air blasted his face as he pulled himself onto the grass above. The park was silent. Empty. Too empty. Fog drifted between the swings like pale hands. The streetlights buzzed faintly, flickering in unnatural rhythm. Ethan sprinted across the field. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he had to move. He charged toward the sidewalk. But his phone buzzed again. He almost ignored it. Almost. Then he saw the message glowing on the screen. Impact source relocated. He slowed, heart hammering. Another message slid into view. Turn around. Ethan's breath caught. His feet stopped moving. He forced himself, half against his will, to turn. At first, he saw nothing. Then he saw headlights. Blinding, close, too close. A car, dark, silent, engine humming low, was rolling toward him along the empty road. No driver behind the wheel. It was accelerating. Fast. Ethan stepped back. No, no. The phone buzzed. Alignment locked. Ethan ran. He sprinted across the street, legs burning, lungs screaming. The car surged behind him, tires screeching, engine roaring like a beast finally unleashed. He vaulted over a bench, dodged a lamppost, cut through the fog. But the car stayed with him, turning without a driver, following every movement, matching his direction like a predator reading its prey. Another notification lit up the screen as he ran. You cannot leave your path. Ethan shouted into the night, voice cracking. I don't have a path anymore. You changed it. The car angled toward him sharply, tires cutting across wet pavement. Ethan dove into the trees. Branches whipped his face. Roots caught his shoes. He almost fell. The car smashed through a metal trash bin behind him, sending it flying. Ethan stumbled into a clearing. His legs trembled violently beneath him. The car burst into the clearing as if the trees weren't even there. It accelerated. Ethan closed his eyes. And the car suddenly slammed into something invisible, herking to a stop inches in front of him. The air vibrated. Something unseen held the vehicle suspended, engine screaming helplessly. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. On his phone screen, a new message appeared. Path collision. Error in sequence. Event failing. Reset required. He backed away slowly, breath ragged. Reset. What? The app paused. Then it displayed one final message. Resetting you. The world around him flickered. The trees, the lights, the fog, all glitching like a corrupted video file. And then, everything went black. When Ethan opened his eyes, he expected pain. He expected fire. He expected the roar of a car engine or the crushing weight of steel. Instead, he heard typing. Soft, precise, mechanical. Tap, 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 tap. His vision was blurry at first, like someone had smeared his eyes with fog. Shapes shifted in front of him. Dark silhouettes, machines humming. Slowly, the world sharpened. He wasn't in the park. He wasn't anywhere he knew. He was sitting in a chair, strapped, but not cruelly, inside a vast, dimly lit room lined with sleek black monitors stretching farther than he could see. The air was cold and sterile, humming with electricity. At the far end of the room, a giant screen glowed. Words flickered across it. "Resetting you, please, wait." Ethan's throat was so dry it hurt. What is this?" The typing continued behind him. He twisted in the chair, struggling against the straps. A dozen figures sat along a long desk, still silhouettes but not human in shape. Their limbs were too thin, too smooth. Their heads too spherical, implanted with glowing rings. Artificial, machine attendants, all of them typing in perfect, synchronized rhythm. Tap, 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 tap. Ethan's pulse spiked. "Where am I?" The screen flickered again, replacing the text with something new. "You interfered with a fixed death. Interference creates echoes. Echoes must be cleared." Ethan shook his head violently. "I didn't interfere. I tried to save people. I was trying to stop this, whatever you are, from killing them." The typing paused for one eerie heartbeat, then resumed. A soft mechanical voice came from somewhere above him. "Death cannot be stopped, only balanced." Ethan froze. "What does that mean?" he whispered. The voice continued, emotionless yet heavy. "One prevented death requires an equivalent replacement. You were scheduled. Jake replaced your impact. Balance disrupted." He felt cold spreading through his limbs like ice in his veins. "So, you're fixing the schedule," Ethan whispered. "You're correcting it. Correction requires a reset." Ethan squinted at the massive screen. The word resetting faded. Something else appeared, a timeline, a long glowing line, moments marked on it like ticks on a ruler. His mother's death, Jake's death. His own altered windows crossed out, all branching outward like fractured glass. "Why me?" Ethan demanded. "Why show me anything? Why send that stupid app to begin with?" The voice paused, longer this time, as if searching. "Then you were not chosen. You were sampled." Ethan's stomach turned. Sampled for what? Behavior study, reaction mapping, interference stress test, human response to foreknown mortality. He stared in disbelief. This was a test? A soft hum. "Yes." "And Jake?" "Collateral result, outcome acceptable." Ethan felt something inside him snap. Acceptable, acceptable. He died because he tried to help me. Sacrifices stabilize the system. He thrashed against the restraints. "Let me go! Let me go!" For the first time, the typing stopped completely. All heads turned toward him in unison. Another line of text appeared on the massive screen. "Reset failure. Subject resisting. Forcing alignment." A deep vibration shook the floor beneath him. A hatch opened in the ceiling. Something descended. At first, Ethan thought it was a camera. Then he realized it was an hourglass. A massive, floating metal hourglass descending from above, humming with a sinister white glow. Sand, dark and shimmering, flowed upward instead of downward, swirling like smoke. Ethan tried to scream, but the vibration in the air pressed against his chest, crushing the sound. The voice vibrated the room. "Your new path will begin shortly." The hourglass hovered inches from his face. The sand stopped moving. Time froze. Ethan forced out a whisper. "I won't follow your path." The machine voice replied, "All humans follow paths. Some simply see theirs sooner." The hourglass inverted with a violent snap. A shockwave hit Ethan, white, blinding, reality shredding, and everything went dark again. Ethan awoke in his bed, morning light, quiet room, phone buzzing beside him. A notification blinked. The deadline is ready. Tap to begin. Ethan stared at it, paralyzed. His mother called from the kitchen. "Ethan, breakfast is ready." His heart stopped. "Mom?" "Alive." Jake texted him. "Dude, you coming over later or what?" "Alive." Everything was reset, as if nothing had ever happened. But the app waited on his screen, hourglass icon pulsing gently. A new message appeared. "Second attempt unlocked. Please proceed." Ethan backed away from his phone, shaking. He whispered, "No, not again." The screen lit up brighter. "Beginning new schedule. You may not refuse." Ethan slammed the phone face down. From beneath it, the device vibrated softly, almost like a heartbeat. A final message lit up the darkened display. "Welcome back, Ethan. Let's try this again."